Good morning, everyone. On this Monday of the 11th week in Ordinary Time, we're continuing our reading in the second book of Corinthians. We're in chapter 6, verses 1 through 10. Brothers and sisters, as your fellow workers, we appeal to you not to receive the grace of God in vain. For he says, "In an acceptable time I heard you, and on the day of salvation I helped you." Behold, now is a very acceptable time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. We cause no one to stumble in anything, in order that no fault may be found with our ministry. On the contrary, in everything we commend ourselves as ministers of God, through much endurance in afflictions, hardships, constraints, beatings, imprisonments, riots, labors, vigils, fasts, by purity, knowledge, patience, kindness in the Holy Spirit, in unfeigned love, in truthful speech, in the power of God, with weapons of righteousness at the right and at the left, through glory and dishonor, insult and praise. We are treated as deceivers and yet are truthful, as unrecognized and yet acknowledged, as dying, and behold, we live, as chastised, and yet not put to death, as sorrowful, yet always rejoicing, as poor, yet enriching many, as having nothing, and yet possessing all things. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Well, that's quite an introduction here on this Monday morning of hearing this. And Apostle Paul is kind of giving them a little prod here, saying, I don't want you to receive the grace of God in vain. In other words, grace is something that's unmerited. We can't earn it, we can't get it, but that grace is meant to grow. It's meant to be fruitful. And if it doesn't have that happening, it's in vain. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. And so the gift of grace that God gives us is meant to do something. And then he goes on to explain about his, well, as some people put it, his resume of ministry. Did you hear that whole litany of what he was saying? It's an interesting resume if you think it from that perspective. In afflictions, hardships, constraints, beatings, imprisonments. The list goes on and on and on. And if you think, if this is what a Christian is supposed to be, I don't know if I would do this. But that's precisely the point. We're to be followers of Christ. And if we're followers of Christ, Christ endured all kinds of afflictions. And so as his followers, we may have to endure a bunch of stuff that we don't necessarily like. And in some cases, misunderstood, as he puts, insulted and not having what most people would say would be an easy life. But it's a life that's full. I like what he says, as poor, yet enriching many, as having nothing, yet possessing all things. Stay safe, folks. Hopefully we get to see each other soon. Bye for now.